And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about Star Trek. And we're so pro, hashtag so pro here on this channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm jo
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Sean. I'm joined once again by Sean
Hello.
from Trek on the Tube. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. I'm good.
Excellent. Excellent. Pretty good, as Larry David would say. Um, Today we're gathered. I'm gonna do the episode summary because you had a rough start.
Oh, you're so nice.
I'll give you a chance to to recoup from all all of that.
More the behind the scenes technical difficulties that we've been having.
It's totally true. But that's the beauty of broadcast is like no one has any idea what happened. Now it's live, so any mistake that happens now they'll know about, but
Yeah.
otherwise.
Well, I mean, we're idiots because then we talk about our problems, don't we? But
Yeah,
we
it's
could
supposed
we
to.
could have kept it a secret. But
That is a known fact about Starfleet Boy. We're idiots. No, I'm just Oh, good grief. So today's episode is episode 16 of season 4, Galaxy's Child. And
Mhm.
the Enterprise is on route to some place that I haven't seen the episode. It's been about a week, so I'm trying to remember as best as
What?
yeah, it's true. I came straight from where I was and just hopped on because I would have like ideally watched it like fresh, like an hour ago or something, but
Mm.
that's not
Okay,
always
so
possible. So,
I
anyways,
can help you out because I
thank you.
just seen it. So they were en route to Starbase 313.
Oh, very nice. We need to talk about Starbase One later, off the
Ooh,
air, because
one.
it pertains to questions I have about something that happened on Star Trek Discovery. But this is a TNG podcast, so we can't talk about that right now. But I do have a
Yes, it
question for
is.
you. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so they're on their way to Starbase 3, and they also happen to pick up the real Leah Brahms, who we met in a past episode where Geordi has a very interesting encounter with her on the holodeck. And she's just aboard to do reviews or something, like to review changes and just kind of like some field observation, I guess, just typical engineer stuff. And then they changed course because they detect some kind of like foreign object or spaceship or what they think is a spaceship initially, but it ends up being a Gormagander. No, I'm just kidding. It ends up being it ends up being a species they've never encountered before. And Picard, I remember, was like kind of in awe that about a creature that can survive just in space, like without a spaceship or a spacesuit or whatever. Anyways,
Mhm.
they this thing that looks like a whale, so I'm just gonna call it a space whale.
Dude,
Slightly resembles a whale. So the space whale starts to approach the Enterprise, and then it starts to attack it with initially like this is one of those episodes where Worf gets turned down a lot. So initially I think he says we should probably turn on the shields, and Picard's like, no, don't turn on the shields, Mr. Wolf. And then so this thing starts to attack them, and they're forced to fire fire
in
phasers.
defense of the captain, Wolf is a little trigger happy. Like shields, let's fire phasers, and he's all over the place. Like let's kill this thing, but
That's, yeah,
we don't know what it is yet. Calm down,
it's
boy.
true. It's true. But anyways, so they fire like phasers, hoping to just not to kill it, but just to kind of shock it, or whatever. It's like a low intensity phaser blast, but it ends up killing the space whale. And Picard is devastated. He's like so upset that like he had a hand in killing this strange new life form, and he's like super forlorn, and he's about to go into his ready room when Data is like, wait, sir, there's a energy reading coming from it. And so then Picard hangs out for a second, and they discover that there's a baby that's trying to hatch from the space whale. So Picard's like feeling a little bit better about it, and he's like super overprotective. Dr. Crusher says, "Let's do a cesarean section with a laser," and so they cut open the space whale, and then the baby space whale comes out, and it immediately thinks the Enterprise is its mother. Duh. Like, it's kind of large shiny thing,
I mean,
whatever.
as one space creature does.
And I'm sure just as Scotty was very enamored by them, the space whale Junior was also enamored by the Enterprise's ample nacelles.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good reference. Come on, that was really good. It all tied in. It was really good. It was really good. I'm trying to remember. I'm only stalling because I can't remember. I thought you were no, I'm just kidding. Oh, so then there's this so anyways, the space whale
You've done too many reviews now. You don't.
I'm casual and informal about it. Anyways, the space whale attaches itself to the Enterprise and starts to suckle energy out of the Enterprise as though that's its food source. Or I mean, because it is its food source, not although it is, as though it is. And so the Enterprise has this problem, and they have to figure out how to get the little baby space whale off the Enterprise without killing or hurting it, because Captain Picard's like, "Oh no, we can't do that." So in the meantime, so he basically drafts Dr. Brahms to help out, but there's a little bit of tension between Geordi and Dr. Brahms, because this whole time, while all this was going on, as Geordi was showing her modifications, he kept like revealing that he knew too much about her in like a creepy way, if I recall. And it was like it was unsettling. And then finally it comes to a head, and he kind of confesses that he wants to have a connection with her in the Jeffries tubes, and she's like, "Geordi, I'm married," and he's like, "Oh."
That was such a beautiful way to put it. Let me have a connection with your Jeffries tubes.
That's where Starfleet Boy's mind is today. You're right.
Carry on.
One note about that scene, I did like the old-fashioned looking engineering suits that they were wearing that kind of harkened to the original series. But I read that off my notes. I actually made a note about that. It's like, when I watched the episode. So anyways, that's fine and dandy, and they like kind of get over it and figure out a way to work with each other. But while they're trying to figure out the problem of the space whale, oh, this is genius. I found a program that Geordi created with a baseline of the engines. And so she goes to check it out. And of course, that's when she meets the holographic version of herself, saying things like, "Every time you touch the engines, you're touching me," and things like that. So she gets furious and outraged about it. "It's not right." She's like super, super outraged about it. And that leads to Geordi. When Geordi discovers she's in the holodeck, he like, runs as fast as he can to get there. And when he encounters her, she's furious. And then you think their relationship's going to be over, but after she cools off, she comes up with this idea of how to sour the milk, so to speak, with the ship's energy, or whatever, the power signature, the quantum phasic shielding capacity. Anyways, so they do this thing where they do this thing where it makes the energy taste bad to the space baby, and the space baby detaches, and there's like more space whales coming, and everything's all good at the end, and it's a happy ending. And Professor Brahms and Geordi are hanging out and having a good old time at the end of the episode in 10 Forward, until her husband calls her on on subspace. And then the show ends with what I remember being like just a really lonely and sad moment for Geordi. It's not like the brightest ending. He's just sitting all by himself in 10 Forward, and that's it. And so I think I
Well,
got
I mean,
everything right.
that's it. That's everything. Now it's beautiful that we begin with the end. So let's talk about Geordi alone for a bit.
Yeah, let's do
Does
it.
he
Let's
not
do it.
deserve that for being a total creep?
Yeah, but I think
So
I
this is
thought about
interesting because
yeah.
this is one of those episodes where you kind of feel bad for Geordi throughout the whole thing, and then you're kind of happy when he stands up to her. But when you think about it, when you take a step back, he's real creepy, and what he did, I would not like anyone to do with me. And so he's kind of in the wrong. And even when you take like a step back and look at his argument, he gets mad for nothing. She should be a lot more mad than what she is.
This episode aired before this phenomenon, but like, do you remember when people would stalk you on the internet and like friend? I mean, maybe not friends, but like in high school, I remember. Well, for me, it was post high school, but I remember in TV you would see this a lot, where like someone would stalk someone on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and get to know them, and
Mm.
then meet them in person. Basically, the same exact scenario that Geordi is doing. The show's almost prophetic because like that became a real problem with Facebook and stuff like that. But I I
For,
don't
for, for
know.
those for those that don't remember, Geordie LaForge in like it's season 3,
Mhm.
episode, I think maybe what's it called? Um,
That episode is we should know this, but
Booby Trap,
casual booby
isn't it?
trap. Oh no.
I think it is.
That's such a bad
Um,
name for the episode, but so good
okay,
at the same time.
essentially,
It's
um,
like
Geordie LaForge has Geordie LaForge has an engineering problem, and so he creates a holographic representation of Leah
of
Brahms,
Leah Brahms.
and then has this whole. So it's pretty much heavily. It's pretty explicit. They haven't had sex, but they were in some sort of romantic relationship.
They
Um,
but no, I think Guinan puts it best in this episode. I think the computer was just trying to create as realistic a person as possible, but Jordy totally fell in
so
love
it
with
wasn't.
the
Yeah,
with Leah Brahms. But
it's an
I don't
unsettling
know. Like
situation for those watching.
it is
That's the
really
thing.
it
It's
was
very creepy. And then
yeah.
so in this episode, in like the second part of this kind of arc, she comes along. The real Leah Brahms appears on the ship, and it's all like, well, this is awkward now because
It's
I know
super
you,
awkward
but
because
then
we
she
already
doesn't know
know,
him.
yeah. Yeah,
And
and we're in the same situation in a way, which is kind of a cool thing,
I feel
about
like
the
this could have been
show.
a setting for a Black Mirror episode. Um, Black Mirror would have pushed this really dark. And this was done kind of corny and cheesy and in two parters over, multiple seasons. But
Just so you know, I do agree with you 100%. In my notes, I can tell you right now, I wrote, hold on. There's a bunch of notes, and then it says, where is it? He keeps being so creepy. And then I wrote in the next line, so creepy. It's like they are your children. Moves closer, and he knows where he got that from. Like in the dining, when when he has her
yeah,
for dinner, like he
yeah,
basically uses a line that he learned from the holographic Leah Brahms to like super. It is super creepy. It's true. You're right. Like
yeah.
like the whole vibe is like.
He's awkward because I understand that he's not like the most kind of, I don't know, he's kind of awkward when it comes to women or when it comes to creating relationships, that kind of stuff. Maybe that's because that's why his best friend is like an android. But um,
He's such an interesting
he's
character
he's never
because
he's never met this girl in real life, right?
right, this is
Never.
her first.
This is the first time. Okay, like you've met her like as a holographic representation, but you surely you're able to kind of detach both of them. This is the first time I've ever met someone. I'm not gonna invite them to my quarters with like smooth jazz music and smooth lighting, and it's all set up very nice. And she comes all official, and she's like, "Oh, you've changed." And then he
it's
doesn't even back down. He doesn't even think, "Okay, this I've just gone too far, and I didn't realize what I was doing." He insists. He carries on.
it
Hmm.
is really it's super creepy. I don't think he I don't think he crosses the line into douchebag, but I think he's
No, but
just
he's
awkward
got that
enough.
creepy vibe, yeah.
Yeah, he's just I think if I want, because I love Geordi, I'm willing to say he's more awkward than he is like creepy, but it's a fine line. He's like right on. He's like
Yeah,
he's like
comes
right,
off
he's right on the line there.
it comes off more as the guy that's kind of awkward with women and that's kind of like he doesn't really know what he's doing, rather than a criminal.
Right,
But
right.
which is fine. But it's just an awkward situation to find yourself. Where you kind of you feel like you're rooting for Geordie because he's your friend, but at the end of the day, when you look at the situation, he wasn't in the right here.
Right, it's true.
And this
But
isn't a gray situation. This is black and white. And he didn't do good.
but do you think it's
She was very
fair? Do you think Dr. Brahms was indeed a little bit too defensive or standoffish? Because earlier I heard you say she wasn't enough, like she wasn't outraged enough.
yeah, she
Um,
wasn't outright. Okay, so let's talk about my biggest issue with this episode. I think that their relationship uh didn't feel that natural. For some reason it feels very scripted and it doesn't feel real. For all the crap that we give Star Trek Discovery, a lot of the relationships that we have in Discovery feel very real. They feel like real world relationships. This one, the Leah Brahms kind of Geordie thing, didn't. Um, and so when she gets mad, you can feel like she's an actor getting mad, like not actual mad. Um, and then yeah, I just felt like I mean she should have been a lot more mad than what she was. She's like, I'm outraged, and then she walks off, and then she comes back later on, like after they've solved the problem. She's professional in the meantime. When they have the meeting and everything, she's all very professional. Well, that's fine because they,
do
they
you,
they do work for Starfleet.
I feel like I got the same impressions, but to me, I don't know, it just that's not what bothered me about the episode.
Oh,
But now
really?
that I'm thinking about it, well, no, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I do see what you're saying, and like maybe that so something about the episode bothered me, but I couldn't put my finger on it, and I'm wondering if maybe that is it. Because the thing is though that like I feel like I could relate. I really empathize with Leah Brahms in the episode
Mm.
personally. So I was like on that level I felt like I could relate, but maybe I, I don't know, maybe their dialogue was pretty scripted. I mean it really definitely was pretty scripted. They had a lot of dialogue together too. They talked a lot about a lot of stuff. This was like an exposition heavy episode for sure.
Okay, so the first time he meets her, like as a holographic representation, the characters connect quite well. And I mean, maybe it's just because they were playing like the actors were both playing characters that like each other, and they were getting along, and it had this cute little friendly dynamic going on to it. And this time they tried to like change it up, and there's a lot of layers to like the relationship that they have, especially on Geordie's side, mostly on Geordie's side. And maybe I don't know, maybe just the execution of the whole thing, be it the writing, the acting, everything was.
I think for me what does feel like I think I'm starting to hone in on what I was feeling. At times the acting is forced, but I wonder if that was a choice because I know they're both good actors. You know what I mean? Like, but I wonder if they
Oh,
did that
absolutely.
on purpose. But I do think yeah, like at times it did feel a little forced.
It,
Uh,
it may be just that. Maybe they tried to force the writing a little bit to kind of like push them apart. Um, and then the writing also maybe forced a little too much of that creepiness. Like he's dropping too many hints. Like we get the picture. He's already met her in a holographic form, and then I mean that was amplified by acting, where maybe the actors not they'd already played together, so they thought we need to make these characters seem even more distant than I don't know. It
and
just
I'm pretty sure this is like one of those episodes that's like super low danger. Like I'm pretty sure even when I first saw this, like I didn't think anything was gonna happen. Like people were not gonna. I mean, like it's a space whale. Like like
yeah.
it's like do you know what I'm saying like. So I think that something that was missing from the episode over there, that's maybe something also that I was feeling is like something that felt like it was missing was like I didn't buy the tension that the characters were having. Like I didn't buy the danger. like the situation. It wasn't like the first situation, and maybe that's another thing. Sean, you totally hit on some points that are like firing up my mind here. But in Booby Trap, it's like a situation that forces Geordi to go into the holodeck and meet and have a relationship with Leah Brahms. And so it's kind of like, is it clever or is it too much that they did the same exact thing? Like, here's the real Leah Brahms. She happens to be aboard the ship, and they encountered a situation, ironically enough, where the Enterprise's power is being drained, like the same exact, like
Yeah,
exact formula. And so
and
I see what you're saying. I think
is
that's what you're saying. I mean,
is
I'm
that a
not sure.
is that a problem of the episodic format? Like, I can see this working a lot better in like a serialized format in Discovery. Say you have one episodic episode where so your chief engineer makes this holographic girl and what have you, and they have this awkward relationship, and then next season during a serialized arc, they go through a space station or they go through a starbase or something, and then he meets her for real life. So it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like she was brought onto the ship. They have another situation that is similar. It's just like he's passing through, and
Right.
as he talks to her, because I mean he's chief engineer, he has to have some sort of discussion with her about the engines. Um, then you realize that he's really awkward, and then they can have like you can have a story like that, and then you could push that for a few episodes on like what kind of impact it has to do these kind of things, because he can't be the only character that's done
Right.
this. I mean, Barclay is an example
Yeah.
where he,
Barkley.
to
Well,
a certain
Barkley.
extent, he modifies who they
Yeah.
are. But
And it feels like Barkley goes way further than Jordy does.
oh yeah, absolutely. But so was it something that would have worked better in a serialized format, or simply like not a one episode we have a problem and it's the fake one, and then one episode we have a problem, it's the real one. You know what I mean? I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. No,
I'm trying
I
to figure out
totally.
something, but
No, you
I'm trying to
actually.
fix something that's 35
No,
years
you.
old. But
Well, yeah, but I don't think. I mean, aside from that, I think you nailed something that really like kind of had troubled me about the episode, but that I didn't realize or wasn't able to articulate. And I think that's what it is. Like that, it's exactly that. Like in and that's why serialized television I think will always kind of be more interesting than episodic television after the fact. Like once it's already aired and everything like that, I think serialized television holds up its value a lot more, because this is one of those episodes that
well,
I don't
I
know that I
mean,
would ever watch again. But if you're like, if it were a part of a story that like,
mm.
then I could watch this episode and I could be like, oh, there's all these other things going on that are gonna come into play later. So
Well, I mean, serialized television lets like, for example, this story, it could like really unfold and evolve as well.
mhm,
Whereas
mhm.
here it's just kind of like a she's here, she's mad, she's gone.
We could have gone to the
Um,
the extreme depths of Geordie's creepiness. Uh,
we could have, I mean, we could have pushed it to some horrible levels, but I mean, you've also got to keep in mind that like episodic television, though it can have two-parters, it can have kind of arcs. It is episodic, whereas serialized television has this advantage of if you want to do an episodic like episode, just a one-off, you can at any given
which
time.
we
So if
which we've seen already
which we've
in
seen
Star Trek
already.
Discovery.
If you have an
Yeah.
idea about like a time loop, you know, lol. If you have an idea about some sort of planet that you want to explore, or maybe just like one episode on what it's like to be stranded on the surface of a planet, you can do that kind of stuff even within a serial. Okay, it might feel like a filler episode if it's not executed to perfection, but you can do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like when sometimes you have like big directors come in. So if you were to have, for example, Steven Spielberg come in, direct one episode of Star Trek Discovery, you might not want to have him just direct any other odd episode in your arc, but have him like, we have a specific story that we want you to do, and he could do that. That'd be awesome.
That would be
Um,
really awesome. Steven Spielberg directing Star Trek. Um, what else did I have in my notes? Oh yeah. What did you think? Was it in character or out of character for Picard to respond the way that he did? And what I sensed was that like he really lost his confidence for a moment, um, when he
hmm,
accidentally killed the space when they accidentally killed the space wolf. Like, and so then after that he was just like very careful and everything. And like I even remember, like, this is what I like about Patrick Stewart so much, is that like there was so much expression in his face. Like he hardly said anything in those scenes, but like he does genuinely look like super perturbed and freaked out when they kill the space whale. And then later at the end, when the baby joins its cousins or whatever, he looks so happy, like,
Yeah.
and overjoyed. It's like, so
I think it's a natural reaction, especially for that character. Picard has this way of, I guess he's really by the book. Everything he does is by the book, and then when the book doesn't work anymore, he throws a speech at someone,
but here
and it seems, but you
this
can't
was
throw
like
a
his
speech at a,
underbelly though.
yeah, but you can't throw a speech at a floating whale. So and then he follows
You
the
there,
procedure.
you
You there.
there, you whale.
The crazy thing is he
Get
follows
off
the
my ship.
procedure. He follows the procedure to the letter. That's what Troy takes the time to
She
tell him. Like,
actually says that. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
you did everything as it was supposed to be done. I mean, bad luck, you killed it. But because the lowest intensity of the phases is obviously too much for any kind of just floating space whale. I mean, you're gonna kill it with a phaser. Come on. But,
What? No, what actually probably happened was Picard ordered it to be low intensity, but Worf was like, "Low intensity? What's that?" Like, and he just like,
I am no pussy.
Klingons do not have a word for low intensity.
It is kill or be killed. Come on, man. It's a space whale. Calm
One
down.
of the disadvantages of having a Klingon tactical officer. And what's
Yeah.
the thing later where what was the objection he had? What does he propose in the ready room that Picard's like, your objection is noted?
Oh, I forget. Yeah, I remember he did object. I've got notes. Oh,
I
I
just
forgot. I
remember
forgot what it was.
I just remember like they're discussing something in the conference room, and then Worf
Yeah.
says, we shouldn't do this or something like that, and
Wolf has
Picard's like,
some other proposition which is kind of either super defensive or super aggressive. It's like to the extreme, and then he's just dismissed by anyone and everyone in there.
um, also here in my notes is,
Building off,
well, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead. I was going to say, building off that look that you're talking about, Picard, like Sir Patrick Stewart acts brilliantly in that scene. He's got a million emotions, so guilty, and he's kind of baffled at what just happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They also cut to a shot of Riker looking at him, and Riker he's got that blameful look on him, like, what did you do? How do you dare do that? Like, kill this. Anyway, I loved it. I loved all three shots. You got Riker, then you got, I forget the order, but there's Troy, Riker, and the captain.
The
All have
bridge
these three
crew
looks. It was really
the
great.
bridge crew are so comfortable. One of the things I remember about this episode too was another scene where I think Troy's like, the baby thinks it's the Enterprise is its mother, and Riker's grin. He just like has this huge grin on his face,
He's
like,
always smiling
oh
anyway in every
yeah. It's
episode.
and
But
then another thing I noticed is when Data is doing some research at another station, and then he goes back to operate, the op station. So it's cool because the guy who was sitting there just pushes the thing out of the way and moves, and Data and Riker simultaneously sit down, and Riker does his like where he puts his leg on the panel and like crouches, and they both get into these like really heroic positions like in front of
oh,
the camera. And I was like, yeah, if you ever go back and watch this episode,
uh-huh.
you gotta like remember that scene. We're Star Trek fans. We're gonna watch it
We are.
again, no matter
I think
what.
it's safe to say that there are two parts to this. Like, there's two kind of separate storylines to this. They tie into one in the end, but there's two separate storylines, and one is much more interesting than the other.
Yeah,
Just the idea of having a space flying thingamajig just floating out there is mind blowing, and to think about it is very interesting. The whole Geordi and Leah Brahms relationship is kind of awkwardly executed. It's nice to see the impact, like the aftermath of what Geordi did, but it wasn't done in the way that I would have
I,
wanted it to, I suppose.
yeah. When I saw this episode initially, I was like either in middle school or high school, and I remember being completely uninterested in the romantic stuff. I was definitely like a way late bloomer to like being interested in that stuff. So this, I
Oh, okay.
know my young self was probably like,
Oh,
can we
okay.
just
So
get out?
anyone
Can we?
if there's anyone listening to us that doesn't like romantic stuff, I would highly recommend you watch BBC's Pride and Prejudice, the miniseries. It is 6 episodes. It's like 6 episodes or something. Like an hour-long episode, 6 episodes. Here's the thing: I don't really like romance, but then that was what I used to say. Now I've discovered that it's not that I don't like romance; it's that romance is very terribly executed, practically all the time. That's the problem.
So you're
If you watch,
saying the Victorians really knew how to do it.
yes, if you watch, so I'm not talking about the movie here,
Right, right,
but
right,
Pride and Prejudice, the miniseries from BBC is like 6 episodes or something. It is truthfully just romance. It's a guy meets a girl and they talk, and then they go home, and then the guy talks about the girl, and then the girl talks about the guy, and then every so often they have a gala or a ball and meet each other again. And I mean, on the surface, to me, that seems uninteresting, but it truly is awesome to watch, and it's well written, and
Well, I love the book, so yeah, that's
it's well executed, which means romance can be done in an interesting way. It just needs to be done in an interesting way. This wasn't. It's not even romance. That's the thing. It's like romance, but kind of on one side, because then she's married.
it's just awkward. It's awkward and creepy.
It's
It's
kind of
like
cringy to watch.
this
Like,
is just like
oh
this
god,
is just
Jordan.
like, and that's the thing is like you just feel pain throughout the episode for Geordi.
You know
You
when your
just like
friend
feel
does
like,
something completely stupid next to you, like he gets like he
and
stands
you're
on a
just like,
table or something, and he's doing something that
it's
you just
true,
don't want
it's
him to
true.
do, or he's telling a story you just don't want him to tell. Yeah.
I did I did make a note about the Geordi and Guinan scene where they're playing three-dimensional chess.
Those were
And
nice.
yeah, those are really nice little vignettes or moments. And but my favorite was when she was like, "Oh, it must have been your old visor," and because I didn't remember the gag, and I was like, really like, well. And for a moment, I was like, "Did Geordi have a different visor?" Like I was trying to like remember or whatever, and so it totally like got me. And so I really enjoyed that moment. So
I
that kind
love
of stood out.
how she's very like she always uses metaphors to explain things, and you'll notice that up until now in TNG, she's always been very kind of enigmatic, but when it comes to Geordi, she's not. She tries to go in that direction, but then explains it to him. Like, oh, it
It's
used to be
true.
it's the visor that saw differently, and he's like, ah, but I mean, it almost feels like she dumbs it down for him. Like, you're too stupid when it comes to relationships. I'm gonna have to tell you what's going on. So, poor
It
guy,
is pretty
poor
funny.
guy.
I know, really. And like Data was so not there for him in this episode because he was so focused on, this would have been like one of those times where like Geordi would have gone to see Data and been like, Data, help me out here. What's going on? Like, or maybe not Data. He might have gone to see Riker actually, but everyone was so like
Mm.
preoccupied with the space baby, the
I
galaxy's
mean, let's be
child.
honest. This is a Troy situation. You have to go see Troy
Right,
in
that's
this kind
true.
of
You're right. You're
situation.
right. He would definitely
When
have
you're
seen her. But she was busy sensing the baby too. Like everyone was super focused on the baby in this episode. Like no one was really there for Geordi. He was
so
all
horrible when you
on
think
his
about it.
own. Yeah, it was
No one there to
like
help. All of his friends were off saving this kind of space
it
offspring.
didn't it feel that way though? Like he rarely interacts with the rest of them in this episode, except for in that like one scene where they're in the briefing room, and
Yeah.
so that I definitely noticed that this time around watching it. Um, do you have any?
Concerning the
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I had a question actually. Because we don't know how these kind of spacefaring creatures work.
Right.
Um,
We can make a few assumptions though.
yeah, but I was just wondering because when I was watching the episode, I had a thought like, is this really an offspring, or is it kind of a phoenix situation
I thought the
where
same thing, like jellyfish.
yeah, when the beast dies, does like another one regenerate inside and then come out? Because it would seem that none of their scans showed that there was another one before they killed it, and then it's only a moment after, like Picard has time to have his terrible face and then get up, and then he's almost off to cry in his ready room, and then that's when all of a sudden they find that there's a young one appearing in there.
I,
So I was like,
yeah, it's totally. I wondered the same thing, and this is like I guess where we have to jump into what is it called, like headcanon, or like just kind of imagination type stuff. But I was curious because you know I don't know if like it's I think it's all of these things. I think television at the time shied away from stuff like this, but I noticed that the space whale mother had no gender thing. Like, I mean, this baby is supposed to break out of its skin. Like, so like if it were a baby and the space mom was still alive, what happens is it like it bursts out of its belly and then the space whale has does it die then anyways? Like there was no
Mhm.
orifice through which
So it does
the
make
baby could come out.
sense that the baby only exists or creates itself or generates itself once
Right, it's
the
not actually a baby, but a clone. It's the same animal. In other
yeah.
words, it's like these, these immortal jellyfish. Like you
Mm.
can, it like basically
Yeah,
reverts back to an
they
infant
regenerate their
state,
cells forever.
and they start out as infant. Like they basically revert back to like an infant state, and then they regrow back to an adult state from there. Which would be an amazing superpower to have. Let me tell you, like every time you die, you're just like, oh, it's okay, no problem. Like like a little me pops out of myself, and that's
I will say
it.
that the so I'm watching this on Netflix like for the rewatch purposes. I'm watching this on Netflix because it's remastered. Um and the CGI is hideous.
Really?
Yeah.
No, so yeah, okay, you're absolutely right. The space whale scenes look like cartoons. I do remember
Yeah.
seeing that and saying, no, you're absolutely right. I remember Michael Okuda saying that when they did the remaster of Star Trek: The Next Generation, because like they definitely had the ability to upgrade, excuse me, the effects even further than what they actually did. But
Mm.
he wanted to be true to the original artists, like the artist that created the original stuff. So he just wanted to like basically upgrade the resolution, like create an HD version of it.
Yeah.
um I wonder if he would do things differently now, because I would totally have put so much more detail and like almost redesign the creature so that it looked more realistic. You know what I mean? Like, or what is thought of as realistic today.
I
So
don't okay, here's I don't think I would do that. I understand what you mean, but if we're going in that direction, then I would based on Discovery's aesthetic, if I had the budget, I would redesign all of Star Trek to kind of follow the same aesthetic as the most recent show. You see what I mean? So that everything sticks in like visual canon, but then you can't do
yeah.
that. It makes no sense.
But
So
that's
I would leave it as it is. It's just that using the jellyfish um space creatures from the pilot, um they are the same, yet they are beautiful to look at in the remastered version. Whereas this, they're just hideous, and the CG is not well made. The CG is not good. I don't know. It just didn't look great to me.
yeah, I no, I agree with that too, and it didn't look. I was surprised at that too. However, it's the same opening shot from the pilot episode, actually, like where the Enterprise kind of comes in, and then
Hmm.
you see it go from the bottom to the top like that. So I thought that was really nice. But yeah, you're
That's
right.
not
I
CG,
didn't
is it though?
No, but like I think it was definitely there's my understanding is that the Enterprise a lot of times is a replacement with a CG Enterprise, um, or a
Okay.
CG augmented Enterprise. My understanding is, I don't know. I mean, I wish they had. I think I'm only watching the remastered stuff on Netflix, so I don't have access to the supplementary material, which I would love to see. Like, I bet the Blu-rays come with like information about how it was made and stuff like that. But I do know this. Um, they alternate to be able to meet the release dates on time. They alternated between two companies. So like season 1 and season 3 are the same company, and then season 2 and season 4, the one we're in now, are the same company. And I remember
Okay.
Humbert remarking that the second group, the season 2 people, are not as good as the season 1 people. So that would fit with what you're saying, like where the jellyfish from season 1 looked so nice. It's that other production company,
Well, I mean
and
that's just
this
sad,
is
but
yeah. So every alternate, so we can expect season 5 CG upgrades to be really great, but
Okay.
then season 6 might won't be, at least will end well with season 7.
Mm.
A
Anyway,
little.
no, just to finish this off, all of the Enterprise shots throughout the whole of the remastered are very nice.
Oh, nice. They do look
It's
great. Yeah.
just and it's not that often that I'm kind of distracted by how ugly the CG is. Often you get that sense of it's it's a 90s show or it's an 80s show depending on what season you're watching, and so the CG isn't it isn't what you have today. But this is one of the rare occasions where I'm like, God, that is ugly, and I don't believe it for 1 second.
Yeah, totally. What's the YouTube channel? Is it a Trekcore that does the comparisons, the side by side comparisons of the
There are
remaster?
multiple YouTube
Oh,
channels
there's
that
a
do
ton
that.
of
I think,
okay.
yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
I'm always on the same one, but yeah, no,
I
I think
sometimes will like when I'm not sure, I'll go and I'll try to like find one of those videos and then I'll be like, "Oh, so it
mm.
is like that or not." But um what else about this episode? I had something on my mind and I've totally forgotten.
Well, I can't help you there. Do you want me to read some notes?
Yeah, let's go through your notes.
Um, I wrote 300 kph and 500 kph just for the
Oh, kilopascals per hour.
kilopascals per hour.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
I
not
happen
kilometers
to.
per hour.
No, it's not.
Okay, so what explain to me what's a kilopascal?
I think a kilopascal, audience, correct me if I'm wrong, or
Oh,
let's just look it up. But I think if I'm not mistaken, it's like a nautical, like in it doesn't just address going in one direction, it addresses like I don't know, I'm not sure. I have to look it up now. But I remember that it's kilopascals because they say it fully in a previous episode.
okay, so they're not going at 500 kph or 300 kph, like kilometers per hour.
Not kilometers per hour, because
Okay.
that's very slow. Yeah,
Well, it is
it's
very slow,
kilopascals
but
per.
I was
Yeah.
assuming they were going very slow just to like kind of not scare off the creature.
Here's
But yeah,
the in Pascal for many purposes, and the kilopascal kPa of 1000 newtons per square meter is more commonly used. For example, standard atmospheric pressure or 1 atmosphere is used as 101.325 kilopascals. So it looks like there it's a pressure unit.
mm,
But let me do kilopascals per hour and see what it says, what happens. I might just be completely wrong. Maybe it is
you might be.
kilometers per hour. 300.
Well, I mean, I had understood that they were going slowly to not scare it, but then I mean, be it kilometers or
Erase the whole
kilopascals,
kilopascal thread. Just erase it. Here, Starfleet boy, kilopascal thread, garbage.
why?
Because it
Uh,
is pressure. It's not, so kph just I
so it is kilometers per
overcomplicated.
hour.
Yeah, it is kilometers per hour. I was complicating myself there.
So it's just they're going at 300 or 500 kilometers per hour, and they're slowing down.
Yeah,
Well, they're going slowly.
slowly for the
Okay,
baby. For the baby.
so
Baby on board.
th this got me thinking about this creature.
Oh,
Because I forgot who said it. I think Riker says it, but someone says that they've never met anything like this before, or they've never seen anything like this before. Maybe it's Picard that says it. And
but
so,
they have.
but then you think about the Gormagander, don't you?
Well, there's the Gormagander, and then there's also Tin Man or Gumtu, which is also another creature, but that one like houses people inside of it too. But yeah, it's like yeah.
But then there's the jellyfish
Oh yeah. You're
from. So I'm wondering, like, okay, so it probably is just a mistake. But if we were to try to fix this or find out what he's referring to, there must be some sort of peculiarity about this creature that isn't shared with all the others.
it's hard to see that from just a visual, you know what I mean? Like from a
Yeah.
visual perspective, because the Gormagander kind of look the same as this. So it might have been something that could have passed because the jelly okay, Star Trek Discovery ruins it because
Oh, oh,
because, because tell me if I'm wrong.
go ahead.
The jellyfish thing and Tin Man are exceptional because both of those originally were like inorganic and then transformed into or were discovered to have organic properties. So like for example, the jellyfish had transformed itself into the city that the people on Farpoint Station lived in. So
Hmm.
it was a unique it was like that. So yes, it had organic properties, but it could also be hardened like a starship or whatever. Tin
Mm.
Man is the same. Like Tin Man was like more of a spaceship where a
Yeah,
crew
it's
had
a
to occupy
sentient spaceship kind of thing. It's a
spaceship kind
sentient,
of
yeah.
thing, right? Or a bio spaceship, right? But the space whale was definitely like an animal, like a creature of space, right?
Mm.
So there's the fix temporarily, but now because of Star Trek Discovery and the Gormagander, you unless the Gormagander
Um,
went extinct before Picard's lifetime, and then he's like referring to it as like we, this crew, have never seen this before, and that could
or
be.
if you look at the Gormagander, it has clearly like a mouth,
Hmm.
and animal like features. So I can
Right.
assume again like it has like everything that a creature needs. Whereas as you were saying before, this one has nothing evident, like
That
nothing to prove.
resembles.
That's why he thinks originally, is it a ship? Is it a whatever? Because visually it doesn't strike as we describe it as a whale, but it doesn't really
Right.
look like one, does it? Because
It's not really a whale. Yeah,
it's
it
got
doesn't look
no blowhole.
like.
But so maybe that's what he's referring to. This is the first time we've actually seen a space creature that just is a kind
Is
of
so it's
floating
unique.
thing. Mm.
Yeah, I think Starfleet Boy declares that that's that's the one right there. You have saved the ship, Sean.
Yes.
You saved the show. Good job.
God. Yes.
That's why you're the canon expert. The ship's the canon judge. I like that better
The
actually.
canon judge. When there's just the two of us on the canon
But it's
judge.
just the two of us. Um, that was a really good question though. You had me like wondering for a while because it's true.
Yeah, it's nice, but it would. So, do you think the do you think the Gormaganas are extinct now? By the time we get to TNG DS9 Voyager, like they had, like Starfleet hasn't been able to save them, and they all died off.
Yeah, because I mean, it's clear that until it seems to me like Starfleet's wasn't like just Earth in general wasn't very good at preserving animals because in Star Trek 4 the whales are extinct. Like there's not a single whale on Earth,
Yeah,
and
that
that's
sucks.
why yeah, like
God, you
like
failed, guys.
they really did fail, right? Like there's like how could all whales, which we don't, thank goodness that it's because of in real life it's because of the movie that we put all that kind of stuff into into place. Like it brought attention to the thing. So maybe we would have gone down that path. So like who knows? But yeah, I think that based on that, anything pre Star Trek 4, you can safely say the Federation was really bad at like and maybe it's because the philosophy was like, well, if it's going extinct, maybe that's the natural course of things. So post the probe changed the Federation's like stance on that
Well,
whole thing,
you
and
know
so
what? Quick tie-in to Discovery. As it stands, we have not resolved the situation of the war in Star Trek Discovery. So I don't know about next episode, but we haven't done any far-fetched things like people are theorizing. There hasn't been time travel. There hasn't been like a miraculous reparation of the situation. So the Klingons have taken over everything. Maybe the Klingons have killed every single Gormagander because they've attacked every single starbase.
that's very likely that they use Gormaganders
They're like eating them.
they're like oh my god, they would probably maybe that's what led Gormaganders to extinction in the first place. Is there like a delicacy for Klingons or something like that? So yeah, who knows?
That's why Worf is so angry at our space creature in TNG.
These are really deep cuts that we're making here on Starfleet Boy today. I feel like this is like one of the most important episodes of Starfleet Boy ever. Like I've never had thoughts like these before,
Which is
John.
ironic because this is truthfully not one of the most important TNG episodes.
Correct. Very, very truthfully so. I think it's that time of the episode where we give her a rate because I'm laughing when I'm crying. I was it's like it's so funny. Um, so I was going to give this episode a higher rating when I initially watched it. I placed it at about probably because of the sentimental value of it or whatever, but I'd placed it at about an 8. And but after talking about it and like seriously like really see I can go down. Like
Hmm.
I can get reasonable here. But after talking about it, I'm gonna have to give it one whole notch down to a 7 because it doesn't
Ooh.
really like yeah, so it's a 7 it's a solid episode. Like I really liked it, but I didn't love it. So yeah.
Hmm.
And Geordi's freaking sad
Yeah.
and
Well, Geordie's sad.
creepy and lonely.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's interesting because I kind of had the same thoughts as you. Like going before I rewatched this episode for the sake of the podcast, I had I suppose I only had positive thoughts about the episode because I keep only thinking about I have that sour the milk sentence. That's the kind of the I don't know why that sentence defines this episode for me. Sour the milk, and I keep on remembering how amazing the concept is of having just this thing floating
Yeah,
around and it
and
attaches itself to your vessel.
the science is cool. I meant to say something about that during our discussion. There's a lot of
Go
techno
ahead.
babble, a ton of
Mm,
sciencey techno babble stuff in this episode. But sorry, go
mm.
on.
No, no, absolutely. There's a lot of good things to this episode, and I think that's what sticks in your mind after. But when you rewatch it, when you're actually living the episode as it unfolds before you, you do realize that 50% of it is just Geordie awkwardly being creepy to Leah Brahms. And so that did drag my rating down. At, like every time there would be another scene, I'd be like, oh,
It's hard to
it,
watch. No, it's
it
true.
continues.
It's so true.
It carries on forevermore.
The torture that Jordy's going through.
Oh
It's
my god. So I would have to give it a 5.
wow. Okay.
Mm,
So yeah, I think that's fair to say that we can just as a group effort give this episode a 6. Whoa. This is now that we're done rating the episode before we sign off. This is the personal segment, and feel free to say, "Oh, too personal. We're not going to answer this question here."
ooh, ooh.
But um, on a scale from creepy being Geordi to smooth being Riker, what
Mm-hmm.
have most of your experiences been like with the ladies? Now we know you're Unsade. So that would be a note of success right there.
Well, I'll tell you what. Um, I could never claim to be a Riker, and I truthfully hope I am not a Geordie. That's what I have to say about the
but you
matter.
don't but you don't truly know. I think that I have to agree with you that I can definitely hope that I'm not a Geordie, but I don't know for sure either. Um, but I think I'm mostly like Data in my in my romances. Take that how you will. Fully functional.
Yeah, well, I was
And
gonna say he performs like a machine. So is that what he's is that where you're going with it? But
I
God.
All right, cool. So that was our very first. It wasn't our first. It was our first official personal segment of Starfleet. Thanks for participating. Um, well, this was another fun discussion. I think I had more fun in the discussion than I did watching the episode, so that's always a good sign for me
That's a
as far
win.
as
That's a win.
that's a win. It's true.
10 out of 10
So
Starfleet Boy episode.
Yeah. Right on. Audience, let us know what you think by commenting below. Please, if you're here for the first time, consider hitting subscribe and share this video if you really like it. And thanks. And if you listened all the way to the end, thanks for hanging in there and listening all the way to the end. Um, Please go and check out Sean's channel, Trek on the Tube. By Thursday, there will be a Star Trek Discovery review and Easter eggs because he usually puts them out by Thursdays. Did I get that right? Did I get
Yep.
that right? Okay, cool.
Thursday should be fun.
Thursday should be fine. And they're not here right now, but I just want to give a shout out to Ketwalski, whose channel you can also check out on YouTube or find him on Twitter as the real Ketwalski. And Trekker Prize, also known as Gary, which same thing, channel, website, Twitter. And Gary is responsible, and we are very grateful for the beautiful look of the Starfleet Boy YouTube page. So kudos to him, and please hire him if you need any kind of graphic design stuff done. Anything from like a greeting. I guarantee you this man is extremely talented. He made posters that I haven't put them up yet, but I plan to put them up. And he does all these amazing things. And he's hashtag so pro. So check him out.
Trying to make that hashtag a thing, are you?
I'm just so pro. It's true. And finally, the newest person to join our Discovery Forum, or what was I calling it last week? The
I don't know, we change names every week,
Yeah,
so I mean,
the Wisenagamot from Harry Potter, the wizard's courtroom is Trekkie Rob, and you can also check him out at the Trek Book Club, which he runs and manages. And I think that's it. I covered all the things. So live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.
see ya.